Hi there, Scary Gary. Glad you guys came back. Well, weather's getting nicer. So you know what that means? That means camping season is approaching us again. So that's good news. But today we're going to talk about the border crossing with Canada. Now, I need to clarify the information that I'm specifically giving you right now is all about our fall of 2022 crossing of the border. For instance, a year before that, there was no crossing of the border. Maybe a little more than a year before that. And then you had to have COVID vaccinations and there's all kinds of things. So before I really get into this big time, you need to go on Canada's website and see what the rules are right now. So, and then I did a lot of research on what we could bring across and what we had to have and what we needed to do. And at that specific time, they strongly recommend that you go on the ArriveCA.ca website and you do all your registration on it. There's an app that you can use right on your phone. Now, I did it through the website because at this specific time, I had to give all of my copies of my immunizations for COVID and the booster shots, all that information that was required at that time. Now, it's a lot different, but we'll cover that in a little bit. So when you go on these sites, what it specifically told us last fall was you need to use the Arrive Canada app. And it specifically stated, hey, if you show up at the border and haven't used it, you get one free pass. You get to come in that time, but it's going to take you longer. And then the next time you come across, you absolutely have to use that Arrive Canada app. What it says right now is you don't have to use it, but they strongly recommend it because it's going to expedite your crossing to the border. The other thing, I looked on lots of websites of what I could bring across, what I couldn't bring across, and definitely firearms, cannabis, alcohol, those were literally high on the list. And there is instances, say that you're going to do skeet shooting or you're going to hunt up there. There's certain paperwork you could fill out and to bring a firearm across. But I was really cautious. I saw people recommending that you actually put together a manifest and put down what you've got in the camper and what you're planning to bring across. So I kind of calculated what we would have left when we went across the border. And the night before we went across the border, I crossed out everything that we didn't have and added a couple more that I had forgotten. And that was on the food. And that was on the vitamins that we were carrying and prescription medicines that we were carrying. And there's an exhaustive list of things that cannot or can, but the website it says, hey, it's subject to change. So we specifically signed up on Arrive Canada, which I must say this to start out with. You cannot do that except 72 hours before you go across. It's got to be under 72 hours. So I couldn't do it at the house and get all ready for it, then take my trip that took 5 days to get up to the border. I needed to basically do it then. But when you go on their site, one of the first things is going to ask you where you're going across. We specifically went across at the Counts area. It had us load up our passports and our numbers on our passports. It had us load up, at that specific time, it had us load up all the information we had on our COVID vaccinations, including the 1, 2, and then Mary Lou and I both had a booster. I don't believe you have to do that now, but I didn't do it. Then you have to kind of list approximately the time you're going to be there. Now, when we pulled up to the border, there was a fair line. It probably took us maybe 30 minutes to make it up there. So, I thought at first I was about 15 minutes early. So then I was about 15 minutes late. We also need to talk about pets. There's lots of requirements. You have to have the proof of vaccination. Usually it's every 3 years on the rabies. And we had all of Finley's papers with us. So when we got up to the border, there was a van in front of us, and it took quite a while because it was a 15-passenger van. They had a lot of people in there, and they kept passing paperwork back and forth. I mean, I don't know what they were actually doing, but they finally had them pull over to the side. And then we came up there, and the lady that was at that Pacific booth, she went out to them, and apparently gave some directions on other people, and then she came back to us. And it was a case of, first thing she said, you got to roll the windows down so she could see in. We had to take our sunglasses off so she could see our eyes. And Mary Lou and I both had to answer the questions that she asked. And I need to say, I took a picture of it when we were pulling up to the booth, but you cannot take any videos or pictures of it while you're going through it up there. Everything was pretty clear. It was just ask if we had any firearms, ask if we had any cannabis, ask if we had any, there was a fair list of things. The only thing that we were able to say that we were a little questioning was she asked, do you have any pepper spray? And we had some bear spray in the camper. And I says, no, we have some bear spray in the camper. And she says, okay. Now, that was relatively, she didn't ask one question about Finley, about the dog at all. She just said, oh, you got a dog back there? You got your papers? And Mary Lou said, yes, we do. And she didn't even ask for them, didn't see them, She did take our passports and just had them over there in her hands. And she was bringing up the Arrive Canada. Now, when we actually came back across the border from Alaska, I need to kind of tell you this. There was no line. We were straight at the front. There was, and there was not near as much traffic. Of course, this is the far north edge of Canada, northwest edge of Canada. And the lady there, I was trying to pass her my passports, and she says, no, I've got it all here. Because we did the Arrive Canada again up there. So she didn't even need the passport. She had the data right in front of her. There was one requirement in the fall of last year is that you may be picked for a random COVID test, which guess who got lucky? Mary Lou. She got nailed for a private COVID test. Now, they gave you the COVID test. I think you had 48 hours to do it. And we actually did it that Pacific night in the campground, and it was done over video. You have to make sure you have a Wi-Fi connection or some good enough connection where your phone's going to work through the entire time. And the lady watched her take the test. We had to take the test and drop it off at only a couple different places. Like, I call it FedEx down in the United States, but it was a different name up in Canada. But had to drop the Pacific test off, and then we hit the road. There was no quarantine or anything till we found out, which we didn't find out till we were in Alaska, that she was negative on the test. So, and that again was the requirements that were right there. I have to say, I hate to tell you, don't do this. Don't worry about what you're going to bring across. I'm sure everything that they didn't ask me about was not, that I didn't bring, that I had my manifest for. I'm sure, maybe they are still illegal. They just didn't ask me about them. So that's one thing that, I think it's better to be safe than sorry and to be held up. Because we had one other time when we went across the border over by Niagara Falls, and we pulled up there, and we were just going over there for the day. And the lady, the first thing she did, she just looked at me and she says, do you have a gun? And I actually said, yes. And she said, where is it? And I says, it's in my camper on the other side. And since I was traveling in the United States, it was legal to do that in most states at that time. And she just, she pretty well did a few writing, whatever. And then she says, you need to go pull over there. And we wasted almost 45 minutes having them search the entire vehicle. So I strongly recommend you don't try to do something you're not supposed to do. All right, if you go on the website of ArriveCanada.ca, there is a whole new list of things that that you don't have to do, that don't apply right now. And here's a majority of them that here's what I saw just, while making this video. So I cannot emphasize enough, things change. If you notice this specific list, there's a problem with, I think it's Hong Kong, a part of China, and some other country. And then those, you actually still have to have the test. You don't have to submit your immunizations, with other places at this time. Don't have to wear a mask. There are several different, don't apply. So things change. So I always say, I hope this has been informative. I think the main thing this has been informative is this is what happened in the fall of 2022. You need to double check what's going to happen to you when you try to make your crossing. And because the main purpose is to get across there, to get to those beautiful areas we want to see, because, our next specific spot, we're staying just outside Calgary, and we're going to go up and see Banff, and then the next day we're going to go up and see Jasper. So Canadian Rockies or something else. I haven't seen the Canadian Rockies since I was probably 8, maybe 7 years old. So I'm really looking forward to seeing them again. Well, I sure hope to see you guys next week.
If you like the video, make sure you give it a thumbs up.
Turn on your post notifications.
Put the comments down below.
Subscribe and make me happy.
Rah!